You'll be coming to my wedding too, right, Shay? I made sure to send you an invitation as well.
Well, of course I'm coming. And now that we're talking about your wedding, have you gone and picked out what dress you're going to wear on your special day, Claire?
Yep, I've already decided.
And that dress isn't some kind of a raggedy dress, right?
Raggedy? I'm sure I already explained this to you before, but that dress is a family heirloom. I'm sure that the design is pretty old compared to what people wear today, but I think it looks beautiful.
No way. No way. This wedding is going to be all about you, Claire. There are plenty of really cute rental dresses that you could be choosing from, yet you want to use that old and smelly dress? Your family is very wealthy, right? Why don't you have them pay for you to get a dress of your own design made? And then why I needed to text you. Because Claire is such a stinky little jerk, Camden and I aren't able to get any of her savings or a settlement from her. As a wealthy woman yourself, you would never allow her to be so stingy, right?
I'm not really sure what basis you have for saying something like that, but I have heard a lot from Claire already. All you guys think about is money and nothing else, right? I wonder why she was never able to realize that before getting married to you, greedy brother.
Me again, huh? I hate the both of you.
And I really don't care how people as low as you think of us. It's not like you have to see us ever again, right?
Well, if you don't want to see us ever again, then stop trying to make us pay for that wedding.
That has nothing to do with you guys and us. That has to do with the responsibility your family has after what you all did.
Ugh. If this is how you're going to treat me, then I'm going to go online and tell everyone what you've done to us. Then everyone who feels sympathy for my family and I will rally with us and make sure you pay for what you've done.
You really think there are others out there who would sympathize with you? I've already talked with plenty of people already about what you guys had done to me, and so far not a single one of them has sided with you. And what about your friends that you've spoken with? Did any of them say they felt for you?
None of them did. But that's just because they all don't understand.
That's not true. They do understand what you did, but they know better than to side with a couple of bad eggs.
You're calling us bad eggs now? All I freaking did was hit you in the face with a cake. That was it. Yet now you're taking all of that way too far. Are you actually that screwed in the head?
You're asking me that? Not only did you guys deceive me and try to get my money, but in the end, the most heartbreaking thing for me of all was that you, Shay, you ruined that dress.
And you getting so upset over an old and stinky dress getting a little bit messy makes no sense to me.
That dress which you kept calling old and stinky and said was raggedy before, do you have any idea how expensive it is? Because if you did, you would never say anything like that about it.
You want me to tell you how much I think it's worth? At the very most, $50.
I don't think any dress could be worth that little. That dress was my grandma's, which she bought while she was on a little vacation to Spain. It's from one of the most famous brands in the world and is worth more than you have ever made in your life. Back in the day, it was worth $7,000, which in today's money is around $50,000. It's considered an antique now because that brand is no longer around, which only triples that price.
What? I never knew that.
Even if you didn't know what the price of a dress like that was, you knew just how important it was to me and to my family. Yet you still had the frickin' nerve to ruin it in front of my whole entire family. That dress was first worn by my grandma, and then she passed it on to my mom, who then passed it on to me. Recently, my grandma hasn't been doing too well, so one of the last memories I wanted to give her was of me wearing her wedding dress. But you came in and not only crushed my dreams, but crushed my grandma's dreams as well. I was going to refrain from trying to completely destroy you, but the moment I realized you would never learn your lesson until your whole entire world crumpled around you, I knew I had to fight. So I'm going to make sure you pay for this dress to be cleaned.
What? What the hell? You think the cost of cleaning that dress is going to bother me? That'll only be a couple hundred, right? If that's all I'm going to have to pay out of my pocket, I could do that in my sleep.
Did you already forget what I was just saying? The dress is an antique. A couple $100 to clean it up just isn't going to cut it.
What?
And if the cleaning isn't able to take care of all the staining, then what will happen? You'll have to pay for the dress that you destroyed.
No way. I already have to help pay for the wedding.
This is what you and your family asked for, though. So don't complain to me about the price that is to be paid for screwing around like that.
No! Claire, please don't be so cruel to me. I will make sure to learn my lesson and change. If I have to pay that kind of money, I'll have to go into debt. And that kind of debt at my age, my life will be over with.
You think I'm listening to you right now? You went and ruined my family's heirloom dress and laughed about it like something worth over $200,000 being ruined wasn't going to bother me. How about you go and ask your family to take all responsibility for that debt, and then you can all pay it off together.
They're not going to listen to me anymore. Claire, what do I have to do for you to get you to stop asking for us to pay you so much?
You could always off yourself. Then your family would have to pay me for everything instead, and you would no longer have to worry. But besides that, there's nothing that you can do for me now. I'm a pretty heartless person after all, so those are your only options. I don't care which one you choose as long as I get the money I'm owed. Now please, sit around and wait with your family while my lawyer gets all their things together and gives you guys a call. And please, don't Plans for retirement were completely shattered. He could no longer afford to think about winding down his career. Instead, he had to return to work, diving back into a job he had probably hoped to leave behind. His responsibility was now to help pay for the wedding, something he and his wife had both agreed was okay to ruin in the first place. The sudden reversal of fortune for Camden's family must have been a harsh wake-up call, one that left them scrambling to make ends meet. Camden himself also faced a fallout that was far more personal than just financial. His reputation among his friends, colleagues, and even the people he used to work with took a nosedive once the truth came out about what had happened. People he considered friends quickly distanced themselves from him when they learned the details of what he had done. The truth was hard to ignore, and Camden's fall from grace was swift. His professional life was no better. He soon found that his place at the office was no longer secure. He had essentially lost his standing in the company, and soon enough he had no choice but to quit his job and leave town. Camden's decision to leave town wasn't just about finding a new job, it was about escaping the whispers and judgment that followed him. He was searching for a place where people had not heard about what had happened, a place where he could start fresh, but I had a feeling it wouldn't be easy for him to outrun the consequences of his actions, no matter where he went. Months passed, and eventually I received the money for the dress that had been ruined during the wedding fiasco. They had paid the amount that was agreed upon, and the wedding was finally fully paid for. Whether the money came from loans, personal savings, or some other source, I wasn't sure, but something told me that Camden's family would not be enjoying a comfortable future. They were unlikely to recover from this financial and personal disaster without enduring lasting consequences. As for me, after everything that had transpired, I got back to focusing on my own life. I threw myself into my work once again, determined to build up my savings and get back on track. Even though it had been a difficult time, I knew that my financial stability was the only thing I could rely on. In the midst of all of this, I found myself reconnecting with an old colleague from work. We had lost touch for a while, but we began meeting for lunch every few weeks. He didn't know anything about my family or their financial situation. What mattered to him was that I worked hard and earned the respect I deserved. We would talk about work, life, and everything in between. Over time, those lunches became more than just casual meetups. I could feel my heart start to beat a little faster when I saw him. It was a strange feeling, something I hadn't experienced in a while. As we laughed and shared stories over lunch, I began to feel a spark I hadn't thought possible. After everything that had happened with Camden's family, it felt good to focus on something positive for a change. Something that made my heart race with anticipation. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought of the story. We look forward to seeing you at the next story.
Reagan, it seems like you haven't gotten to the laundry at all today, nor to cleaning the floors today. And let's not forget about those dirty dishes that are still in the sink. Reagan, what the hell are you doing in your room?
Hi, Max. I'm sorry, but all day today I've been feeling really under the weather. I'll get to all of those things in the morning, so you don't have to touch anything.
You want me to leave all of this be? So even though you are the housewife here, you're going to ask me to leave all of this for you to do tomorrow?
I'm sorry, but like I was saying, I'm not feeling too well today.
You get to live and eat off the money that I bring into this household, so I'm surprised you're still acting like that right now. Do you feel that since my mom is out of the house for a while now on her trip to England, you can just slack off and do as you please?
Well, today I've had a fever of around 100, so it's not like I'm choosing to stay in my room. So today, I just wasn't able to really get to anything.
Huh? Reagan, are you actually listening to anything you're saying right now? I'm asking you if you're taking advantage of my money and time right now. Answer my question now.
I'm sure right now I am taking advantage of that. Sorry.
If you have the guts to apologize to me for that, then you have the energy to come down here and get these chores done right now. Because of all these plates stacked up in the sink, I'm no longer able to use it for anything else. Also, I've noticed some of the decorations and design of the living room has changed. Why would you do that?
I did change it up in there a little. I just wanted there to be a change of atmosphere in there.
Excuse me? You did all of that without asking me first? Whoever told you you were allowed to change things up in here? This house is being paid for with the money I bring in. And that means my mom and I get to decide what is and isn't done here.
But when I video called your mom, I showed her the living room and she told me she really likes it that way.
She is too kind, and that's why she'd say such a thing. Why did I end up marrying such a thick-skulled woman as yourself, who acts all happy about it?
I'm sorry, but today I'm in need of some rest, so let's pick back up on all of this tomorrow when I'm hopefully feeling better. Right now, my head is starting to hurt.
Go right ahead then. However, I can't say I'll care about what happens
through the back door and swiftly placed him in handcuffs. He didn't put up much resistance after that, though his face was a mask of defiance mixed with desperation. Once they had him restrained, they took him to the county jail for questioning. That's where he would stay, awaiting the court case that would determine his fate. While all of this was happening, I was still in the hospital recovering. My body had been through an ordeal, and it would be a few more days before I could even get out of bed and move around again. The doctors told me I had suffered a heat stroke due to the extreme temperatures, which was no surprise given the circumstances. I'd only managed to keep myself conscious long enough to make all that noise, banging and shouting in a desperate attempt to get someone's attention. Thankfully, my efforts weren't in vain. My neighbor heard the commotion and called the police, who arrived just in time to get me the medical attention I desperately needed. The doctors worked quickly, and their expertise saved my life. I was in a coma for a short time, but they managed to pull me through. Thankfully, I wouldn't have any lasting issues from the heat stroke. That said, I wasn't entirely out of the woods. My fingers, which I had broken while using a stone to bang against the glass, were going to take a few months to heal. The pain was a constant reminder of the ordeal I had endured, but I was grateful to be alive and on the road to recovery. When the time finally came for Max to go to court, the sight of him was shocking. He walked into the courtroom looking like a shell of his former self, as if he had aged 10 years in the span of just a few weeks. His usual smug demeanor was gone, replaced by a hollow, defeated expression. The hearing itself was relatively short. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and the jury didn't take long to reach a verdict. Max was found guilty of attempted murder, as well as tampering with evidence and drugging me. His sentence was 3 years in prison, a punishment that seemed fitting for what he had put me through. In addition to his prison sentence, Max was ordered to pay me a settlement of around $250,000. This money was meant to cover my medical bills and compensate me for the suffering he had caused. To pay this off, he was forced to sell all of his possessions and take out several loans. It was clear that he would be dealing with the financial repercussions of his actions for many years to come. But the consequences did not end there. The story of what Max had done spread like wildfire. It was covered in the local news, then picked up by state outlets, and eventually made its way across the country. His name and face became infamous, and he lost everything. His family, his friends, and any shred of respectability he might have once had. In prison, he didn't even bother trying to make phone calls because there was no one left to answer. 3 years have passed since then, and Max has now been released from prison. But life outside isn't much easier for him. The weight of his actions follows him everywhere he goes. Employers recognize his name and face and refuse to hire him. He's drowning in debt, struggling to find a foothold in a world that no longer wants him. Even outside his hometown, people know who he is, and the stigma of his crimes ensures that he remains an outcast. As for me and Deborah, we decided to leave that town behind after everything that happened. We sold the house and used the money to start fresh somewhere new. Deborah took the lead on finding us a temporary apartment while a new house was being built. The new place is much smaller than the old one, but it's cozy and perfect for the two of us. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought of the story. We look forward to seeing you at the next story.
Ellie, don't you think you're spoiling my husband a little too much? Think you can just pretend it didn't happen? Well, guess what? I've already filed a police report. Wait, what? What are you even saying? I don't have a daughter. Excuse me? Are you seriously trying to deny something so fundamental now? So it was all true, huh? My husband warned me about this. He said you'd try to weasel your way out. When I asked him when you'd pay us back, he said he'd check with you, but now he's been gone for days. Don't tell me. You did something to my husband, didn't you? Wait, hold on. Calm down, okay? We seriously have no idea what you're talking about. Our daughter's wedding? We don't even have a child. How could there be a wedding? We couldn't have kids, you see? That's why we've been rescuing and raising dogs and cats as if they were our children. And $50,000? No, we've never borrowed such an amount. In fact, we've never even needed that kind of money. We're a dual-income household, and honestly, we're doing fine financially. Then where did the $50,000 that my husband took go? Like I said, we have no involvement in this at all. How would we know where your money is? But I heard you've been meeting with Richard recently. Okay, since things have escalated this much, I'll just say it outright. We haven't seen him. After you contacted me last time, I didn't bring it up again because you never followed up. But the truth is, Richard hasn't met Chris at all. In fact, they haven't seen each other in a long time. So that means your claim about Richard meeting Chris, it's a lie. What? You two aren't conspiring together, are you? Conspiring? Us? With Chris? Why on earth would we do that? For what reason? Chris has always been cunning, deceitful, and willing to take what doesn't belong to him. That's exactly why Richard has been keeping his distance from him for years. Even the in-laws didn't want anything to do with Chris, which is why we've all kept our distance from you and your husband, too. You seriously didn't notice? What? But my husband told me he was just being kind. He said it's better not to associate with the in-laws. He said there's no need to stay in touch or visit them, so I could do as I pleased. Oh, I see. Well, that sounds exactly like something Chris would say. He probably thought there was nothing good to come from you getting involved with his family, so he deliberately kept you away. Why would he do that? Well, based on how things have played out, I guess he borrowed money from you and used it for something. But he didn't want you to find out, so he made it seem like it was for family-related reasons, a perfectly justifiable excuse. Huh? Wait a minute. Are you seriously saying you two didn't receive the money? Show me proof. We didn't take it, and we haven't been in contact with him. How do you expect us to provide proof of something that never happened? Besides, the fact that we don't have a daughter is proof enough, isn't it? When my husband gets home, I'll ask him about it, but aren't you with him right now? For the last time, we haven't seen Chris in ages. Honestly, the fact that you contacted us now out of nowhere was shocking enough. We haven't even been in touch, let alone met with him. And yet here we are being accused of meeting him. It's absurd. But my husband told me this. He said you two were absolutely no good, that staying involved with you would only lead to trouble. He said not to contact you. And as for the $50,000, he told me it was because his younger brother wanted to impress his wife. He said his brother asked for the money secretly behind his wife's back. I thought, wow, Richard must be such a pathetic guy to do that. Even though he should be earning enough, he just couldn't stop gambling and chasing after women. I was honestly relieved that I didn't end up marrying Richard. Where do I even begin? It's astonishing how much of this is outright fabrication. Gambling and chasing after women? Those are literally the two things Richard despises the most. And you're telling me you believed all of this nonsense about him? That was a long time ago. Besides, my husband told me Richard changed because he married such a terrible wife. He said that's why Richard became dependent on gambling and other vices. But once they had a child, he wanted to turn things around for the child's sake. That's why he needed the money. And that's why you gave him $50,000? My husband told me he'd make sure it got paid back. He said Richard earns a good salary, so it wouldn't be an issue. I am speechless. There isn't a shred of truth in any of this. If anything, the person who can't stop gambling and chasing women is Chris, not Richard. Wait, what are you saying? Chris, years ago, spent all the money in the house, Richard's savings included, on gambling. He thought he had a surefire way to win, but ended up losing everything. He completely lost the trust of the family. To make matters worse, he started chasing after women, blowing what little money he did win on them. That's precisely why Richard decided to keep his distance. And when we got married, you and Chris married shortly afterward. I have to say, the fact that you, who were obsessed with Richard, jumped at the chance to marry his older brother, it made all of us sick. Excuse me? What are you even talking about? Are you sure we're talking about the same person? Chris does put on a good front, I'll give him that. If Richard hadn't warned me about him, I probably would have thought he was a decent guy, too. But Richard made sure to caution me from the start, and I kept my guard up. And since Richard distanced himself from his brother, Chris didn't try to involve me much either. Meanwhile, you, completely oblivious, went and married Chris in a rush. I suppose it's understandable. You probably fell for him because he looks so much like Richard. I mean, he was kind and sincere, and yes, he looked like Richard. So I thought, why not marry the brother instead? He seemed to like me, too. Well, you were a career woman, weren't you? Chris must have seen the dollar signs. Of course, he was going to be interested, but rushing into marriage like that, this is what you get. But I loved Richard for so long. I couldn't stand it when he married you, someone divorced no less. So I thought, if I marry his brother, I can show you up. Hold on, I'm not divorced. Where is this even coming from? Wait, are you saying that's another one of my husband's lies? It all makes sense now. I thought it was strange of you to believe that we had a daughter when we clearly don't. But he told me you were divorced and had a child. He said you were a foolish young mother who got pregnant early, was abandoned by the father, and irresponsibly decided to raise the child alone. And that's why your so-called daughter, raised by such a careless mother, would make an equally foolish decision to marry young. He said Richard was burdened by all of this, which is why he changed so drastically. And that's why he told me to keep my distance from you. And you still gave him $50,000? Well, he said it would be funny to expose Richard's secret later, to humiliate you two and maybe even ruin your marriage. Ah, I see. And now all of that is coming back to bite you. It's almost poetic, isn't it? But I've been cutting back at work to focus on starting a family. We don't have much left. If this $50,000 is truly gone, what am I supposed to do? That's not my problem. We have nothing to do with your husband's lies. You believed him and you acted on it. All of this is on you. No, wait, you have to help me. I'll find a way to pay it back if I have to, but... Sorry, but we're done here. Wait, don't look away from your phone yet, please. You have to understand I'm desperate here. I can't face my husband alone with this mess. I don't see how that's my concern. You've dragged me into something that has absolutely nothing to do with me, and now you want me to help clean it up? You have to take responsibility for your own choices, Rosa. But if I'd known this was all lies, I wouldn't have given him the money in the first place. You have to see that. I was deceived too. Maybe so, but you didn't bother to confirm any of it with us, did you? Instead, you just took Chris's word as gospel and handed him $50,000. And now that it's gone, you want me to fix it? How is that fair? I didn't think I'd need to confirm it. My husband has never lied to me before, or so I thought. He always seemed so trustworthy, so sincere. But now I feel like I've been living with a complete stranger. You said it yourself, he's a gambler and a womanizer. How is any of that trustworthy or sincere? I didn't know he was still like that. He promised he'd change. He said he left that part of his life behind years ago. And yet you still thought it was believable that Richard, the man you claimed to have loved for years, would be the one gambling and chasing women instead? Rosa, do you even hear yourself? I don't know. I was angry, okay? Seeing Richard with you after all those years, happy and successful, it hurt. And when Chris told me all those things about him, I wanted to believe it. It made me feel better somehow, like I dodged a bullet. So you let your jealousy cloud your judgment. That's not my fault, and it's not Richard's fault either. You chose to believe lies because it suited you, and now you're paying the price for it. Literally. But Chris is my husband. How could I not trust him? You just said you feel like you've been living with a stranger. So which is it? Do you trust him or don't you? I don't know anymore. Everything is so messed up. My husband is gone, my savings are gone, and now I don't even know what's true and what's a lie. I feel like I'm losing my mind. That's unfortunate, but it's not my problem. Please, I am begging you. If I can just find my husband and figure out where the money went, I can fix this. But I can't do it alone. Why are you even coming to us for help? Chris is your husband. Isn't he the one you should be chasing down? He won't answer my calls, and I don't know where he is. That's why I thought maybe he was with you, or that you might know something. But if you really haven't seen him, I don't know where else to turn. Have you tried his usual haunts, the casinos, the bars? If he's up to his old tricks, that's probably where you'll find him. I've checked everywhere I can think of. He's not any of the places he used to go. It's like he's completely disappeared. Then maybe it's time to accept the truth. Chris isn't coming back, not with the money and not with any answers. No, that can't be. He wouldn't just abandon me like this. Why not? He's done it before, hasn't he? You said yourself that he's gambled away everything in the past. What makes you think this time is any different? Because he promised me. He said he'd changed, that he wanted to build a future with me. And you believed him, just like you believed every other lie he told you. Rosa, I hate to say it, but you've been a fool. I don't need you to rub it in. I already know I've been stupid, but I can't just give up. I have to find him. Fine, then go find him, but leave us out of it. We've got nothing to do with this mess, and I'm done wasting my time on it. Wait, please, don't leave me yet. What now? If you really haven't seen Chris, then maybe you can help me in another way? I don't see how. You could talk to Richard for me. Maybe he knows something. Maybe Chris reached out to him and didn't tell you. Rosa, I already told you Richard hasn't seen Chris in years. They don't talk, they don't meet up, and they certainly don't share secrets. But what if Chris contacted him recently, just this once? Richard might know something and just didn't want to worry you by telling you. Unanswered questions, and, unfortunately, financial and emotional turmoil for all involved. His sudden disappearance was both a shock and, in some ways, a relief, though it didn't come without its own set of problems. We have no idea where he went or what he's doing now. Some have speculated that he simply ran away to escape the consequences of his actions, but others suggest that he may have gotten involved in something much deeper and eventually led to his fleeing. All we know is that Chris is no longer a part of the picture, and he left a huge mess behind him. However, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, a horrifying truth came to light. It was revealed that Chris had accrued a staggering amount of debt, an amount so large that it was practically unimaginable, The sheer scale of his financial irresponsibility was enough to make anyone's head spin. How did he manage to get himself into this position? Well, the details are unclear, but from what we've heard, Chris had been living beyond his means for a long time, indulging in lavish purchases, taking out loans, and getting involved in financial schemes that only served to deepen the hole he was digging for himself. He had been hiding his financial troubles from everyone for years, perhaps hoping that he could find a way out or that someone would come to his rescue. Sadly for him, no rescue ever came, and his debts reached a point where they could no longer be ignored or concealed. And here's where the situation took a darker turn. It wasn't just Chris who had to bear the burden of this massive debt. No, it was Rosa, his wife, who was forced to take on this financial nightmare. The news that she was expected to pay off Chris's debts was not just shocking, it was infuriating. Rosa, for all her faults, was not the one responsible for Chris's reckless behavior. Yet somehow she found herself trapped in a situation where she had no choice but to take on this enormous financial burden. It seems that Chris had left her with no option but to carry the weight of his mistakes, whether it was through joint accounts, shared financial responsibility, or simply the legal ramifications of their marriage. Whatever the reason, Rosa ended up shouldering the burden of his debts, and it's difficult to imagine the kind of stress and hardship she must have experienced as a result. At this point, we had no choice but to sever all ties with Rosa. The situation was simply too toxic to be a part of. And we knew that continuing to stay in contact with her would only lead to more frustration and heartbreak. It wasn't just about the debts anymore, it was about the lies, the manipulation, and the emotional turmoil that came with being involved with Chris and Rosa. We blocked her from all communication channels, phones, emails, social media, everything. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary for our own peace of mind. We couldn't keep dragging ourselves down into the mess they had created. From that point on, we had no way of knowing what became of Rosa. What happened to her after we cut her off? Did she manage to pay off the debts Chris had left behind? Did she find a way to rebuild her life, or did she fall deeper into despair? We'll never know, and honestly, we don't really want to know. The truth is, we have no interest in being involved in that chapter of her life any longer. The situation has grown too complex, too painful, and the emotional toll has been too great. We had no reason to continue allowing ourselves to be caught up in it. If we were being entirely honest, there was a part of us that felt a sense of relief after blocking Rosa. Sure, we felt some guilt about cutting her off, but the overwhelming feeling was one of freedom. We had spent so much time and energy dealing with the fallout of Chris and Rosa's disastrous relationship, and at last, we could distance ourselves from it. The burden was no longer ours to carry. And yet, as much as we tried to distance ourselves from the situation, there was an undeniable sense of vindication that came with seeing Chris and Rosa face the consequences of their actions. If you could call it justice, then this was the justice they deserved. These two people who had shown nothing but selfishness and cruelty in their dealings with others were now reaping what they had sown. Their once pristine image had been shattered, and they were left to deal with the fallout of their choices, alone and isolated. It's hard to feel sympathy for them after everything that had happened. The truth is, as much as we tried to move on from it, we couldn't help but feel like this was the outcome they had earned. For us, their downfall felt almost like karma. Chris and Rose's relationship had been toxic from the beginning. It was built on lies, manipulation, and an utter lack of accountability. They had both contributed to the mess they found themselves in, and it was difficult to feel sorry for either of them. In the end, they were alone, and no amount of excuses or apologies could change that. Looking at the situation from a distance, it's hard not to feel a sense of closure. We had seen Chris and Rosa for what they truly were, and while it took a long time for the truth to come out, we finally know where we stood. They had manipulated and lied to everyone around them, and now they were left to deal with the consequences of their actions. It's not that we enjoy seeing people suffer, but in this case, it was hard to see their downfall as anything other than just. They had taken advantage of others for far too long, and now it was their turn to face the consequences. There's a certain satisfaction that comes with knowing that those who hurt others will eventually be held accountable. Chris and Rosa may have thought they could escape the repercussions of their actions, but the reality caught up with them. Looking back, it's almost surreal to think how things turned out. Chris, who once seemed so confident and in control, was now a ghost. A man who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a pile of debts and broken relationships. Rosa, who may have once been seen as an innocent victim, turned out to be just as complicit in their mess as her husband. Together, they had created a situation so destructive that it had consumed their lives and the lives of those around them. But for us, the most important thing was that we had finally broken free from their chaos. We no longer had to be a part of their toxic world, and that in itself was a relief. We could finally focus on our own lives without the constant weight of Chris and Rosa's drama hanging over us. Their downfall was a reminder of how important it is to take responsibility for your actions. Chris and Rosa had spent years avoiding accountability, hiding behind excuses, and pretending that everything was fine. But in the end, they had no choice but to face the consequences of their behavior. And while their downfall may have been tragic for them, it was also a lesson in the importance of honesty, integrity, and accountability. We've moved on from their story, and while we may occasionally think about them, it's not with any sense of pity or regret. Instead, it's a reminder that sometimes people's actions catch up with them, no matter how hard they try to avoid the consequences. For Chris and Rosa, their actions eventually led them to a place of isolation and ruin. And while they may never fully understand the impact they had on others, we can take solace in knowing that, in the end, they were held accountable for what they did. Their story, as chaotic and destructive as it was, ultimately served as a harsh but necessary reminder that actions have consequences, and eventually we all must face them. One thing that became clear in the aftermath of their collapse was the sense of relief that came with putting the entire situation behind us. While we haven't been the ones to make the decisions that led to their downfall, we had played a part in the story, and it wasn't exactly an easy role to play. At times, it felt like we were caught in a whirlwind, unsure of what would happen next. But once we made the decision to cut ties with Chris and Rosa, things began to feel a lot more stable. It was like removing a toxic weight from our shoulders, and though the decision was difficult, it was the right one. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought of the story. We look forward to seeing you at the next story.